So I have with me Pradeep Gidwani, and I think Saurav has told you enough about him. I've been fortunate to have worked with Pradeep and known him for almost about 3 decades. I have an immense amount of professional respect for Pradeep. Actually, the word that best describes him is what one can say is he's mercuric. Now, what do you mean by mercuric? Pradeep is a brilliant thinker. He not only is able to, conceive uh, and very strong in ideation, but more so, he is a micromanager. He knows how to get it done. So that's something very, very unique, to find both these qualities. Because a lot of the people are very good at thinking, but somehow they falter in execution. Now, on the other hand, people are very good at execution, and sometimes they falter, in conceiving the proposition. Pradeep, it's $1 million question here. How do brands succeed? No, I mean, surely there's an element of luck to it also. No? I mean, I've seen some very big brands, succeed, and yet there are other brands kind of just come and take off. Yeah. So there must be some magic to it, and who better than you, to share with us, with the audience, what exactly it takes to build up a successful brand. So Pradeep, will you enlighten us? The platform is yours. Please, sir.
So thank you, Mukesh, and thank you for all the very kind words, Kirill. I mean, I'm going to try and sort of make some sense of the few things that I say. But welcome everybody. Thank you for being over here this evening. I hope this session adds value. I think we're going to try and keep the session as simple. For me, I pretty much hate the word BS. So there's no marketing jargon and there's no BS in this. It's just simple. It's down to earth, plain speaking facts. Yeah. So, well, I mean, I think Mukesh, you talked about luck. I think luck is as I say, everybody writes their own destiny, right? Brands write their own destiny, right? So to me, I think the start point is not about luck. I mean, very few brands succeed out of luck, or if they do succeed out of luck, it is for a short time, right? But I think to me, the critical start point is really the thinking, right? I think to me, it's thinking is a start point, and that start point is really first saying, who am I? What do I want to be, right? It sounds very simple, right? It sounds very simple, but I've seen that not too many people know who they are. And I ask a brand, or let's say for example a bar, and I say tell me about your bar, and the guy says it's a cool, happening, rocking place. But I mean, cool, happening, rocking, I don't know what that means here, right? It's got to mean something more than that. So to me, the start point is who are you? Who are you targeting? Right? What price point do I want to be? Right. And then how do I want to position myself? Right. So I think to me, these are all start points. And unless we get this first bit of thinking correct, it's very difficult to go beyond that, because you're going to be all over the place here. So just to give you an example, from outside the industry that I worked in, and if I was to take shirts, for example, I have a lot of respect for a company which is doing really well at that moment of time. This was 97, 98, and I learned a lot from them. A company called Madura Garments there, and they had various shirt brands. So let's say, I'm sure all of you have heard about Van Heusen. Van Heusen was very clearly saying, it is power dressing. So they were very clear that they were targeting the corporate executives. The ads always were very clear about a guy in a suit, and you could see his cuff with the Van Heusen logo on it. So very, very clear. The second brand they had was Alan Solly, right? And Alan Solly pretty much created what they call Friday dressing. So they were very clear, and they said, if you want to go and be smart casuals was the word that they said, And if you want to go smartly dressed to office and very casual, then, buy us there. And so very clear, Friday dressing made it very clear in one's minds. And then I saw a third brand from them called Peter England there. And Peter England said, we're the honest shirt there. Good value, good price points there. So this is a great example of how the brand people thought through the brand architecture. And they said, okay, this is going to be the price point. This is our consumer segment. These are the routes to market. And this is how we want the consumer to see us. So we want the consumer to see us as a smart casual or an honest shirt or a power shirt, right? And I think that is very, very important for all of us as marketers. And I learned a lot from them and practiced that right through my career. So my start point is really getting this, what I call brand architecture or brand framework. This has to be concrete. Who am I targeting? What am I wanting to do with the brand? What price points, what channels of distribution, all of that has to be the start point. That's the thinking.
Is it in marketing parlance? Is this also called, brand positioning? Is it something, or is that the terminology that you people use?
So I think brand positioning would be a part of what I would call brand architecture.
Okay.
So I would use the word brand architecture for this and say, okay, essentially, the critical thing is the architecture. So it's like when we construct a building, right? So we then design the whole building right from the electrical to the plumbing to the look and feel to the shape of the building to the parking lots. And so pretty much to me, brand architecture is that it's got all these different elements, and brand positioning is one part of it, Mukesh.
Okay. So Akshay, I think you need to kind of just mute yourself. We can hear, we hear some sound coming out from your mic. Yeah, sure. So you're saying that first you kind of make the architecture of the brand, right? So let's give us some practical example. I mean, can you take an example of one of the products that you have personally kind of how did you design the architecture for, let's say, Foster's beer? I mean, since I'm sure there are many beer drinkers, and the weather is just right for drinking beer. So what kind of architecture did you kind of decide on when you were launching that product in India?
Right. So Foster's, we had Australian origins, and we therefore said, there were various routes for us to take. So one route could have been a classic beer positioning, which is music, dance, that was one positioning that we could take. The second positioning is using a woman. Sex always sells in the alcohol business. Or the third was really trying to go back to our origins, right? And we said, Foster's is Australian. We talked to people, we talked to consumers, we talked to various people and said, okay, when you think about Australia, what comes to your mind? And, people said beaches, people said cricket, people said beer, people said outdoor, people said barbecue. These are all values and associations associated with Foster's, right? I mean, with Australia. And then we said, okay, fine. So therefore, and they said, down to earth, right? I mean, the Aussies are down to earth. They're not stiff upper lip. They're happy to walk around in their shorts rather than suits and ties, unlike the Brits. I'm not being critical of anybody.
I mean, in India, people drink booze to get a high. And so what is all this thing talk about, casualness and fun and all that? How does that work? I mean, people want to get a kick out of what they drink, no? Wouldn't it be?
People want to get a kick, but they are very clear that I want to get a kick out of a brand that I can relate to. I have emotions with the brand, right? If you see 90% of the times, before a guy goes to a Theka, he already says, "Mereko ek Royal Challenge de do," right? Nahi to mereko ek Kingfisher beer de do. Nahi to mereko ek Bira beer de do. Right? Nahi to mereko Carlsberg beer de do. That decision is made here. So to me, the battle is over here. The battle is not in the Theka. The battle is in the consumer's mind, right? That is where the battle starts there, right? So all of that is what we're talking about, architecture, and that is critical. So I said, 90% of the, yes, there are 10% of the people who go to the shop and say, yeah, achhi whisky kaun si hai? And then the guy stuffs something down your throat. Or if you go at 11:30 in the night and you have no choice, or in COVID times when you have no choice, and the guy says, yeah, beer yehi hai, right? Then you have no choice but to take what's there. But 90% of the time, the consumer has already pre-decided before I enter the shop that I'm going to drink this particular whiskey or this particular gin or this particular beer, right? So Foster's,
So
yeah.
if I may say that, beer is beer essentially, and the character of the beer is defined by the architecture and the position that you choose.
Right,
I mean, very
right.
few people will actually be able to blindly make out the difference between one brand of beer and another if they're served, in an unlabeled glass. So the difference comes out of the kind of proposition that you weave around it. Is that what you're saying?
So there are two aspects to it. So one is beer is not just beer, and today people, yes, it used to be from a taste perspective, from a quality perspective, all beers were pretty much very similar, but that's evolving on one side. So that's one part of the story. It's evolving now. People can feel the difference. They can taste. They can, from a smell, it's possible to tell whether the beer is of a good quality. But that's one part of it. The second part, as we said, is this emotional connect or the intangibles associated with a beer or associated with a brand. Yeah. And so just to give you an example, Foster's, we were talking about, Foster's got, we said, okay, we wanted to be positioned as an Australian beer. That was our origins. And so we said, okay, what is Australia? Australia is down to earth. So the first thing we said starts with us, right? We got our entire sales team, all of us, from the managing director, myself, to our people on the shop floor, to the salespeople, all wearing t-shirts, right? We can't be going out. And yeah, absolutely. We said, this was 98, when in those days, everybody used to be wearing, ties to work. And we were the first company in India. We were the first company in India to say, hey, we got to represent our brand. We are our own brand ambassadors. And I got to represent the brand in the manner that my brand stands for. So if it is down to earth, first and foremost, it's a beer. Beer itself is down to earth. It's informal. There is no BS associated with it. So it's down to earth, right? So we had to say, okay, what is something down to earth? And we said, okay, jeans and t-shirts. So all of us wore jeans and t-shirts. So that was the start point of this whole process. Everything linking back to the brand architecture. The second thing, just a very small thing, all of us ignore, is, let's say, for example, emails, right? So the common thing everybody says, dear sir, right, as your salutation, right, or good evening, sir, right? And we said, okay, everybody is doing that. How can I differentiate, right? In Australia, the common salutation is good day, mate, right? Or good day, right? Right. So when you cross an Aussie, he will say, hey, good day, right? So he'll say, good day, Mukesh. And so we said, okay, well, let us incorporate that in our salutation, right? Let us, instead of signing off and saying yours sincerely, let us sign off representing the brand and say cheers, right? So to this date, in all my WhatsApp messages, in all my emails, I sign off as cheers, because I'm, I'd like to position myself as
Pradeep,
a beer guy.
you walk into a 5-star hotel, you're talking to somebody from F&B, and you tell him, hi, mate. So, I mean, I want that chap jump out of his seat and say, who's this guy?
Absolutely, right? I mean, absolutely. So the guy will jump out, and then once the guy realizes why you're saying it, right? And you talk about it, and then he relates to it. So it is not about wearing a pink shirt just for the sake of standing out of 100 people. Then I'm being an idiot. Then the guy would look at you, the food and beverage guy would look at you and laugh if I went wearing a pink shirt just to stand out from the crowd. But I am wanting to stand out from the crowd, but with a very strategic referring back to my brand architecture. So I'm very clear. So the F&B guy then relates to it and says, okay, he's selling an Australian product, but he's wearing a t-shirt, which is beer, which is informal. He's standing out for a very specific reason, not just for the sake of being, as I said, the guy with the pink shirt there.
But I noticed that, I remember you would also engage some girls to go and sell Daru. I mean, come on, you're the first guy who did it, yeah. So, how do you decide on that?
So again, innovation, but not innovation for the sake of innovation, right? Everybody says, let's think of that kick-ass idea, right? If there is, your kick-ass idea has got to link back to what you want to do. So we said, okay, Foster's, we're very clear, we're Australian, we're a mild beer, we're a premium beer. We position ourselves at premium to Kingfisher, which was a market leader at that time with almost a 90-95% market
No,
share of the mild beer market.
let me stop you there, Pradeep. I mean, you actually sold this beer at anywhere between 10 to as much as 30% at higher price than Kingfisher, which had something like a 97% market share. Wasn't that a foolhardy decision? I mean, usually you say that you kind of put a brand, at least put it equal or slightly cheaper than the other brand in the marketplace. And here you went. I mean, how could you be so blatant in taking a decision like that?
I said, I mean, it goes back, as I said, architecture, brand architecture, brand architecture, brand architecture, right? So it's
Right.
if the consumer has to see us and our quality was far superior. But as you rightly said, when you said a few minutes ago, a lot of consumers at that stage of time could not differentiate between beers. Now people have evolved in the last few years, or last 10 years. I've seen that happening at the Pint Room and the Beer Cafe. But 10 years ago, there were very few beers, and beer was a beer was a beer was a beer. Like a shirt was a shirt was a shirt was a shirt, right?
That's right.
But like a car was a car was a car. You had a Maruti 800, right? And that's pretty much what you had, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, if people have to see us as a better quality, price is one indicator. It's a reflection of being premium and being superior. So that was one aspect. So therefore, linking back to architecture. The second was what we wanted to do. We wanted to clearly tell consumers that we are better, and we had the confidence that we were better because we were using amber color bottles at that moment of time. We were using malt beer at a very significant percentage of malts, which the other beers were not doing. We were using adhesive labels which never came out. So there was a lot of premiumness associated with it, and therefore our pricing had to reflect our brand architecture. And we stuck to that and went out with that. And then we said, okay, when we're going into the market also, how do we differentiate, right? How do we differentiate? So we didn't hire women, coming back to the earlier question, we didn't hire women for the sake of being different or for being the guy with the pink shirt or the lady with the pink sari. But we said that, okay, we want to attach each segment, separately. So when we look at the market historically till then, whether it was Coke, whether it was Pepsi, whether it was Nestle, whether it was Britannia, all these companies had a geographic system of distribution, which meant that
it usually is.
Which meant one sales guy handled, let's say, South Delhi, one guy handled Gurgaon, one guy handled Central Delhi, one guy handled Bandra and suburbs in Mumbai.
True. Yeah.
And he handled all kinds of outlets.
Correct.
And we said, in each of these areas, there are sorts of customers. So we've got 5 rooms and Thekas, and we have retail Thekas. So each of them is different, and each of them needs different handling. And that is what led us to this whole thinking and saying that, okay, if we are targeting the premium channels like 5-star hotels, why not recruit women? And these are sales executives, banquet sales executives, people from event agencies, women who have worked over there and who have done events and who understand the hospitality industry really well. And this actually worked for us. But it all, as I said, boils down. And I will therefore continue to draw back to my opening statements, brand architecture. So everything links back. And if you're able to do that and consistently keep everything within that framework of the brand, there is a very good chance of success. Otherwise, you're all over the place. And that's pretty much how we got women into this industry.
But I also, another thing that you did, which is different, was that, you got people from outside the industry to come and work for you. I mean, some of these women had never worked in the liquor business. Normally they say, I mean, you don't know this business, so how can you come and work here? And you consciously actually kind of, targeted some of your sales team to come from outside the business. Why did you do that? Wasn't that dangerous?
I mean, dangerous, no. I was very fortunate to have had some prior experience with some very good companies like UB and United Distillers. We had a joint venture with Diageo at that moment of time. And I sort of, worked with a lot of very, very good salespeople. A lot of them are my friends. But what I really learned was from everybody in the market was that, and this was also from my earlier experience with Unilever, if you bring everybody from the industry, the first thing is, boss, aisa hi hota hai. So, aisa hi hota hai.
I see. Okay.
So the mindsets are, because, and it's not their fault. They've been conditioned, right? Imagine if you're being conditioned and you're being said, I go to the market and I say, 10 petti par 2 petti free, right? I mean, banda kya bolega, right? I mean, your boss is saying that. I mean, last 25 years, मैं ऐसे ही सुन रहा हूँ. आप market में जाओ, 10 पेटी 2 फ्री 2 देकर आओ, नहीं तो ये इसके ऊपर आप glasses देकर आओ, right? And that is what the trend was in the market. And you talk to everybody, they said ऐसे ही होता है, बॉस आप जानते नहीं है ये इंडस्ट्री ऐसे ही होता है. And you know, that is a line which I heard from everybody, right? And I would therefore, you know, talk to my sales guys and say, "ऐसे ही होता है." I don't want to listen, right? It's like shaving every day. It's, you know, it's a done thing. I don't want to listen to that, right? So that is what really got us to think and say, if I can bring in people from outside who have had different experiences, they would be more open to linking back to the brand architecture and to the brand strategy and be willing to try something new. And that is what worked for us.
Right. No, but then, you know, I mean, if you are, don't you face resistance from the trade, because he expects that you come in there and he'll give you, you know, your new product, so you'll give him a big discount, and you tell him, no, boss, I don't give you any discount. I've got this pretty lady standing in front of you and say, no, this is Foster's beer, and he tells you, I mean, get lost. So how do you handle that?
Resistance is there, Mukesh, right? I mean, if you don't have resistance, then there's something seriously wrong, right? If somebody is buying your product without any resistance, there's something wrong. You have to understand the basic principle of the trade. What is the trade interested in? The trade is interested in profit, right? Profit comes from margin and profit comes from discounts, right? It's a combination of both those, right?
Correct.
So let's say, for example, if I was selling Kingfisher beer, and just as a simple example, and the trade gets a 10% discount, and Kingfisher beer is sold at 50 rupees, on 50 rupees into 15%, we're talking about 4.5 rupees, right? If I sold Foster's at 100 rupees into 15% is 15 rupees, yeah, right? So he made more because he was selling a premium product. And that is something which we were able to convince the trade that you make more margin selling our product through the profit. We actually had something called a profit story. And that is what we communicated to the trade and said, you make more product selling a premium, premium product, and it's for me to get consumers to you. If I get consumers to you and you're able to sell at a premium product and make more margin or more profit, you're actually, every single bottle that you sell, you make more margin on Foster's than selling a Kingfisher. And once they saw that we were actually able to do that and get consumers who came in and asked for Foster's, then they supported us. But yes, a lot of resistance in the beginning. Absolutely lots of resistance.
Okay. So that is about what you're saying is then don't necessarily get browbeaten and go, get pushed into giving the big discounts and hold on to your price position. Because, sometimes when targets don't happen, so people say, oh, hey, give me some more discount, I'll buy more. So one should do that.
Discounts only leads to advanced buying, right? That is all that it does. To me, what is a sale? A sale in the case of a beer or in the case of a whiskey is when somebody opens the bottle cap, right? It is not putting it on the shelf, right? Most people get mistaken and think that by I've sold it to the trade, that means my sale has happened. That is not correct. A sale happens when a consumer opens the bottle. That is a sale. Now, if I've got that in my head very clear, all I'm doing by giving discounts is getting distribution and advance sale. Next month, the retailer is going to buy less because he's got the stock lying with him, right? So you wasted your money. You wasted your money, and you believe that you've got sale, but that's just a waste of money. I'm not saying that pricing should always be at a premium. I'm saying that you got to link it back to your brand architecture. I myself have had brands at different price points. Carlsberg was a very premium brand in my association with Carlsberg. Tuborg came in again as a premium brand, but marginally above Kingfisher. And then we had a strong beer brand called Cologne, which was like the Van Heusen, which was an honest, good value for money strong beer. And it linked back to architecture, and we price positioned that lower to Kingfisher Strong. But that was linked to brand strategy.
Yeah, actually, so sometimes, people get confused. They start off with a certain price position, and then, because market forces push them to kind of, start discounting. I mean, take the example of Jet Air. We were talking earlier, in the evening today. I mean, look what happened to Jet Air. It was a damn good product. It sold, it was a very good airline. It gave you top class kind of, customer service. And then it started competing on price. And look what's happened to Jet Air. No? So, sir.
Absolutely. I mean, so Jet Airways is a great example. I mean, fantastic airline, premium position, everything top notch, worked really well. They bought out Sahara, and then they got this low cost carrier called Jet Light. And then, if they had it as a different brand, it would probably have worked. But the minute I extended Jet Airways to Jet Light, the consumer got confused and said, is it premium? Is it cheap? My own example, Foster's, right? My baby, Foster's, we always sold at a premium until 2006. We were selling about 3 million cases from one single brewery. It got taken over by S.B. Miller. They have now price positioned Foster's at the same price as Kingfisher, or even lower than Kingfisher in some states.
I want to see the brand now. Yeah, it's not selling at all.
Does the consumer want Foster's? I mean, this is so Jet Airways is a live example in front of us. That just dropping prices alone does not necessarily make a brand work. Foster's is another great example of a fantastic brand till 2006, and from 2006 to 2020, completely decimated.
Yeah,
completely decimated.
I can relate another example with you. For you. I mean, we do work for Mercedes-Benz. And at one point in time, Audi and Mercedes-Benz, they're both German cars, equally good in technology. And at one point in time, Audi was, neck to neck with Mercedes. For a while, it was selling more than Mercedes. But Audi chose to kind of go into a discount kind of, approach in terms of trying to get in more customers by giving, 5 lakhs off or even 6 lakhs off, and depending on what you would pay. And guess what? Over the years now, Mercedes continues to remain the number one, and Audi, it doesn't even sell 1/3 the volume of what Mercedes does. So actually, here was a product, a good product, but now the image of the mind, in the mind of the customer is, a discount wala product. Kitna discount deenge? So often people kind of take that route in the, I'd say, hurry to get to the top, and that sometimes backfires. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. So, I mean, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, BMWs, that's at the top end of the market, right? There is a finite number over there. By discounting it, how much can you sell? And which is the reason why it's important then to have a portfolio of brands. So, as I said, price is critical. It's one of the most critical elements in your brand architecture or the marketing mix. But the same, if you're positioning it as a premium brand, it doesn't make sense to bring it down. Then you might as well say, I'll have a second brand like Maruti 800, right? So Maruti did that really well. They've actually straddled all price segments, right? So you've got a Maruti 800, you've got you've then got various other segments like Swift,
Desire,
and you've got Desire, you've got Swift, you've got Balinos, and then you've got the Ciaz, and and then you have the SUVs, right? So you're across different segments, and one shoe does not fit all. You got to be very clear about that, right? So that is the first thing. As I said, going back again to my opening comments on brand architecture, who do I want to be? Who am I targeting? What price do I want to play? That is very clear. So it does not make sense for a Mercedes to discount itself.
Pradeep, let me bring you back to your building your brand in the case of Foster's and this Australian concept. But tell me, your team, did they kind of, I'm sure that they are critical in your success. And did they kind of relate to what you were talking about? Because, some of these guys never been to Australia in their lives, no? So how on earth do you kind of align them to your thinking?
So when we recruited a team, not one of them had been to Australia. Travel wasn't so frequent as it was from 98, 2000 onwards. So I think the first thing is really to share your brand architecture, to share your vision, and get people to experience it as much as you can. So to give you a live example from Foster's, we were an abandoned multinational baby with very little money. And we were looking at doing a fair amount of promotional and experiential marketing. And everybody told us that in India, दो चीज चलती है. एक तो cricketer, right? आप सचिन तेंदुलकर को लेकर आओ, नहीं तो अमिताभ बच्चन को लेकर आओ, Bollywood, right? These are two things that sell.
Right.
And every brand has done that, but we didn't have the money, and we were very clear that that we couldn't afford these, a cricketer or a Bollywood star.
Right.
Foster's at that moment of time was associated with sport, and also Australia is known for sport in a very big way.
Right.
Australians are known to be sporty. That's one of the other things that always came out.
Right.
At that moment of time, we also, Foster's was a big sponsor of Formula One, and Mark Webber, an Australian driver, was really doing well in those days. So we said, how can we promote Foster's using Formula One?
But nobody
In
understands
this
Formula
country,
One in India, yeah?
Nobody knew it. In 98, when I showed it to my team, first they say, "क्या ये गाड़ी घूम रही है, zoom करके गाड़ी घूम रही है." ये क्या है boss? ये क्या है? Right? So I remember we were having a review session in Blue Diamond Hotel, which is now Taj Vivanta in Pune, for my team. And I said, okay, now let me explain to you what Formula One is, right? And we went through and explained the architecture of Formula One. We said, these are the teams, these are the drivers, these are the engine manufacturers, these are the tires. And then we did a small quiz around that. We gave away prizes. And then in the evening, we told our team members that, hey, let's go go-karting, right? We can't go. Yeah, so there was a go-karting track in Koregaon Park. And we took the team go-karting and said, this is the nearest that you can experience something like this. Gaadi ghumri, zoom, right? So go out and zoom, karo, accelerator dabao and enjoy. So we did that. So that was the first experience. Then I told the guy, and then I told my team, I said, now did you enjoy it? Ye gaadi ghumri hai, zoom. I said, ab aapke dost log ko bulao ghar mein, right? Next Saturday or next Sunday is Formula One between 5:30 and 7:30 is Formula One. In this part of Europe, आप टीवी चालू करो, कंपनी आपको एक केस बियर दे रही है, आप चिल करो, invite 5, 6, 10 of your friends home, right? And आप बन जाओ brand ambassador, and you explain ये zoom क्या होता है to all these people, and enjoy the beers with us. It worked really well. People started understanding. Then I said, okay, अभी आप colony के hero बन जाओ, right? So in your condominium, we will put up a screen. And beer and samosas is on us, right? And you talk about Formula One, and you explain to people, and let people come and enjoy. Now that was the one in this country. We got to it, try it in a very small way in your own home, try it in a very small way in your condominium before you went out and sold it to a 5-star hotel, or you sold it to your customer in a bar. So I had to get buy-in from people by making them experience it themselves.
Well, that's right. So unless your own team was totally aligned to the concept and they bought into it, there was no way they would have the conviction to go and sell. No, and that is very important. And many people, have great ideas at the upper levels, but by the time it comes down to execution, many of their frontline team don't understand, the concept. And as a result, the product kind of doesn't, they aren't able to drive that kind of brand synergy.
Absolutely. So an idea will remain an idea till it is executed well, right? Otherwise, it's just an idea. It's on paper. To take it down, on every single aspect, whether we talk about price or we talk about channel or we talk about execution, and the execution can only happen to your team. Your team has to walk the brand. They have to talk the brand. Right? This is very critical. So therefore, you have to wear your T-shirt. You have to wear your logo on your heart. You have to wear your brand on your heart, right? You have to represent your brand. And then when I go out, you have to talk with the same passion. You have to talk with the same energy. That is very, very, very critical. If you don't talk with the same passion, then you're not convinced. And then therefore, this conviction will only come if you see it yourself.
Right. Okay. So that you got to align your team on that. You were relating to me this thing about barbecue and beer, and something like that, and you kind of, and so how did you kind of, stitch that together, for your team?
So again, so first and foremost, the idea really came from our brand architecture. We said Foster's is Australian for beer. One of the things associated with Australia was barbecues, or barbie as they called it. Let's have a barbie this Sunday. And you sort of toss yourself meat, and then you have a nice cold one, as they called it. They refer to beer as cold one.
But people have tandoori in India, yeah. So where does barbecue come?
It's the same thing, right? I mean, tandoori is also barbecue, right? And so which is why it works really well. So that was the synergy, right? Barbecue and tandoori worked well. cricket worked really well, right? And beer, of course, is what sells in India, sells in Australia. So all of that works. So that's why we said, okay, barbecue can work in India. So again, the same thing I had to in all my review meetings. The first thing is every evening we would lay out a barbecue for our team. Yes, of course it was kebabs. It was sheikh kebab, so it wasn't it wasn't a steak or it wasn't kangaroo meat like in Australia, but it was it was regular kebab but with beer. And that was the whole thing. We started with that, and then we said, okay, now when we're going to restaurants, let's start putting together this concept of beer and barbecue on a Sunday afternoon. On a Sunday afternoon, when people are coming over there, let's put together this whole concept. Let's market it. It's good profit margin for the restaurant, and obviously helps us sell our beer and links back to our brand architecture.
Right. No, so you taught all your people to start barbecuing, isn't it?
That was fun, right? It's like learning about Formula One. It's like learning how to do the barbecue, right? I mean, in Carlsberg, we ran a program called Men Can Cook with Karen Anand, right? Again, that was fantastic. I mean, Tuborg, we did stuff with music and with DJs and with EDM music, because that was targeting very specific audience. So each brand has had different experiences, and therefore lots of learnings for all of us. I mean, I didn't know anything about Formula One until I joined Foster's, right? I learned it. I learned it myself, and then obviously I could explain to my team.
No, because I mean, hearing you talk about this, nobody would ever dream that building a brand requires all this kind of detailing that the manner in which you're stating it to us. No, that is really I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so as I said, so the way I break it up critically, to me, brand architecture is the thinking, and then is execution. I know a lot of bosses and a lot of people say, boss, मेरे को 1 लाख पेटी सेल चाहिए, right? मेरे को 10 लाख रुपया का महीने का सेल चाहिए, right? आप कैसे करो, आप फेंक कराओ माल, I don't care, right? To me, that is fundamentally wrong, because you're destroying the brand. आप फेक कराओ, मेरे को 10 लाख रुपया का सेल चाहिए ये महीने. That is not the way. मेरे को 10 लाख रुपया का सेल चाहिए, but ऐसे ही होगा, right? It has to go down this path. If I can do that, then I'm building my brand. मैं फेक कराऊंगा मार्केट में, डिस्काउंट देकर आऊंगा. I will destroy the image of the brand. Then when I go next month, my brand is dead. Look at the story of Foster's. What a fantastic brand. What a fantastic brand in 2006. And abhi aaj dekho, today, even if I give huge discounts, no consumer drinks it.
So these are all strategies to get the customer emotionally attached to your brand. I mean, the kind of lifestyle of kind of watching a Formula One race, or having beer and barbecue, and to that extent, I mean, the customer kind of get. Otherwise, beer is a beer. I mean, I'm not, and yet if you're kind of, are you trying to touch an emotional chord? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely correct, right? I mean, to me, a brand, when you're talking about the brand architecture, has got two sides to it. One is a rational side, and the other is the emotional or the intangible. Right? The rational, and I can really I'll again draw examples from my entrepreneur days now, Beer Cafe and Pint Room, right? 2 brands that I've created. The Beer Cafe, when we opened it up, and was very clearly, we started on the rational side, and he said, we have the largest number of beers.
One second, Pradeep, I just, for the sake of the people in the audience, I mean, many of you won't know, Pradeep was not only the managing director of Foster's and Carlsberg, but today he's a very, very successful, person, because he's got a chain of, beer pint rooms, as he call it. And there too, he's kind of, created a particular unique position for that. So Pradeep, would you kind of share some of what you try to do? I mean, I thought beer places, you can go to Haryana and you can go to a hata and drink like hell, yeah. So, I mean, what is this, concept of pint room and cafe you're talking about? I mean, just explain what you're talking about.
So I was very, again, as I said, it goes back to the thinking and the brand architecture. I had, during my corporate days, I was already thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. The business I know well is the adult beverage business, as I'd like to say. I don't understand milk or juices, right? but I do know about I do know about adult beverages. So I've seen that most of the time.
common question that we have in the audience.
Yeah.
This is like, you see, people need to have some tips, wherein some very straightforward tips for the newbies who are trying to establish themselves as a brand. And that is actually one very common question that everybody has. So I would be very happy if you can.
We'll take the questions, we'll take the questions as we go along. Now that you've raised it, I'm sure Pradeep will address it.
Yeah.
But we'll take, we are noting the questions. If you make a note of it and raise it towards the end, that'll be nice. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. But in the meantime, you raise the question, so I'm sure Pradeep will, want to answer that. Thanks,
Right.
Pradeep. Thanks.
Thanks.
So I'll actually come back to I've noted down tips. So I'll just come back to that. But really, again, I said, and this links back again to the tips. The tips is really, what do I want to be? And I'm going to again relate this with my own thinking for Beer Cafe and the Pint Room, right?
Right.
When I was starting this up, I took a sheet of paper and I said, right, let me write down names of bars and restaurants in India that have lasted for more than 5 years, right? And it was surprising that it was a very, very small list, right? Bars come, they go, they come, they go, they're cool, they're happening, rocking, they're working today, then they're gone. And then I saw, what has worked. So if I look at in Mumbai, Mahesh Lunch Home, right? Krishna, known for seafood, they have stuck to that. I look at, let's
more
say,
than 40 years or 50 years. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I look at that. I look at, let's say, for example, restaurants like Chungwa, right? Restaurants like Golden Dragon, right?
Yeah.
In Delhi, they have very clear that we're not fancy, we're not this thing. We do nice Punjabi Chinese or Indian Chinese or whatever you want to call it. So we're not pretending to be fancy, sushi, cool, happening. This is a food, this is a price point, and they've stuck to that. Or Quality, for example, which was a very good brand for 30, 40 years here, right? Or Copper Chimney. Copper Chimney has been around again for 30, 40 years as a brand.
Yeah.
Or if I look at premium brands, I look at Bukhara or
So what is it that they've done? So what is it that they've done?
They have stood very clearly to the architecture, right? So I said, okay, now I'm setting a beer cafe. What do I want to be? I looked around and I saw the birth of Barista. I saw the birth of Cafe Coffee Day. And I realized that in a tea drinking nation, these places was not about the product. It was not about the coffee, but it was about meeting. So people went there to meet. So this was the emotional part of it, right? It wasn't the coffee. So I wasn't going for the cappuccino or the cafe au lait or a black coffee. But I was going there to meet. I wanted a place to meet somebody and have a conversation, right? And that is
something like a Starbucks. And something like a Starbucks.
That's right. And so Starbucks came into India much later, but pretty much Starbucks, right? Starbucks is a meetup place over coffee. Coffee is incidental, right? And that is when I said, okay, if I can create a beer cafe where my main objective of going there, so we're not a bar, we're not a nightclub, we're not a discotheque, which all of these exist, right? All of this is clearly, about going there and meeting up, right? And so I said, if I can do that over beer, like how the coffee guys have done it over coffee, that should work. And that is what led to the concept of the beer cafe. And the initial positioning for the beer cafe was clearly the tangible part of it, which we talked about 50 beers. And then I said, we got to go beyond that. So when I set up the Pint Room, I sold my stake in the beer cafe and I set up the Pint Room. I was very clear. We said we got to go to the emotional side of it because there are going to be more brands coming in. How do I differentiate myself? Because today everybody will say I've got 50 beers. What is my differentiator? So I said I am a neighborhood conversation cafe. 3 words, right? So cafe therefore led us to look and feel simple, down to earth. Cafe led us to the fact that we played, music, soft music. We played jazz. It's about conversations. It's about neighborhood. So therefore, we didn't set it up in malls which is a destination place where I have to go. I opened up in Vasant Vihar. I opened up at Cross Point, which is very close to residential hubs. So we were very clear that we wanted to be the. So all of that really comes from the thinking. And so to me, the single biggest tip that I would give any person in starting up this business is do this thinking correctly. So that is the first tip. So when I'm launching a brand or when I want to launch a brand, it is not about launching a product where I say, okay, I'm just putting out, I'm just opening another Chinese restaurant or I'm just launching another beer. and I give it a label and it sounds very cool and I launch it. It requires a lot of this thinking and what is called brand architecture. That to me is fundamental. So the single biggest tip is get your start point correct on what you want to be. If you're not able to describe yourself in 3 words or in 1 sentence, then don't start, right? You have to say my Chinese restaurant is this, or my beer stands for, whatever, right? Or my whiskey stands for this, or my shirt is a power shirt and I'm, is a power dressing shirt, or it's a Friday, or it's a casual shirt. That's what I'm talking about. So we have to be, or a soap. I look at Unilever, Hindustan Lever. You've got a Lux soap, which is very clear. It talks about film stars.
Hema Malini.
Hema Malini, and right through the generations, and Sridevi and whatever
That's
else.
Right.
And then you've got Lifebuoy, which is really always about health. And you've got Pears, which is glycerin and is about the tenderness of the skin and mother and child. Very,
Correct.
very, very, very clear. So the single biggest tip is your start point. If you don't get your start point correct, if you cannot tell yourself that cool rocking happening, 90% of the bars in India say cool rocking, and they can't go beyond that, right?
Okay, Pradeep,
And then
just
you're a
repeat
failure.
that. Your
So to
voice
me, the
kind
single
of dropped
biggest
for a
tip
while.
answers-
Can you just repeat this, what you said last?
So to me, the single biggest tip that I would give is spend time on your thinking. It is not a cool rocking brand, but what are the emotional values that I want my brand to be seen as? Who is my consumer that I'm targeting? What channels do I want to go through? All of that is very critical. Take a board, buy old magazines and newspapers, cut out pictures from there. Cut out pictures, right? Simple. Just cut out pictures from there and say, this is what I want my car or my brand to look like. Show that to your sales team and put that board in your office, put it in front of you, and every artwork that you approve, or every poster that you approve, or every digital media post that you approve, you should see, does it link back to the chart that you have in front of you? That is a very simple tip I would give.
So it's like kind of building the personality of a product in a certain way. I mean, you could create a brand for yourself as an individual also, I guess. There is a certain persona about the brand. And the way you're describing it in terms of cut pictures and what is the kind of profile. So is brand a living thing? Is that what you're saying? Can you hear me?
Absolutely. Yeah. People link back. Why do I buy? A jeans is a jean, right? It's made from denim fabric, right?
Correct.
And it's comfortable to wear, right? But why do I buy Levi's, right? Because there's something intangible in it, right? A soap could be a physical differentiators, but at the end of the day, a soap cleans my body, right? It cleans my body, but there is something more to it, which is softness. Beer, as you said, a beer is a beer, even though of course there are broad differentiations now in beer, but I drink it because I can connect to it. As you talked about people, if you connect with me on LinkedIn, I put myself as Pradeep Beer Gidwani, and I was probably the first guy in the world to do that, right? And immediately it positioned myself as the beer guy, right? So everybody around the world who enjoys beer connects with me because of my name in the middle. And I've done that on Facebook, I've done that on Instagram, I've done that on LinkedIn, right? So the minute anybody sees a joke anywhere in the world on beer, the first person that comes to the mind, fortunately, is me. And I get the joke, right? So that is positioning, right? That is marketing. It is, if I can tell consumers who I am in this one simple sentence, pint from the neighborhood conversation cafe. Foster's is Australian for beer. Pradeep Gidwani is a beer guy. Simple, right?
Would you
as
say
simple as that.
that brands fail because they move away from their original brand position, and that confuses the customer? And that is what kind of, that's why, some of the brands, this thing. Some of the brands that you were mentioning about, Madura Coats kind of product brands, and they are no longer that iconic as they were when they were launched. Alan Solly used to be a particular kind of profile product. And now, if you ask what is Alan Solly, it's really difficult to say. Is it Friday dressing, or is it something else? Is that right?
Absolutely. So, I mean, they started with this very clear positioning, as we talked about, and now they've got all mixed up, right? So today, Alan Solly does, formal trousers and suits. I mean, Jesus Christ, right? I mean,
I know. That's right.
You're confusing. Yes, you're confusing the guy. And
Yeah.
a Van Heusen is doing, a party shirt, a Saturday evening or a Friday evening party shirt. So once you mix it up, you are slowly cutting. I use the word cutting your own feet for your brand, right? And we've seen the same thing with Foster's, right? Well, from being an iconic brand today, Foster's is almost nothing, right? Because you keep cutting your feet, 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 and you're destroying your brands. So all the brands, whether it's a Lifebuoy, so Lifebuoy may have changed its physical shape from being a soap, which it still continues to remain, to becoming now a liquid soap in a dispenser. As times have changed, they've sort of this thing, but they remain true to the core value of health, right? They're very, very clear about it. They have the cross on it, they have the plus on it, really talking about medicinal, right? So they remain core and true, and that's a great example of a brand which has stood the test of time.
Okay, Pradeep. I think that's the thing. So, is there any kind of final words that you want, kind of share with the the audience here before we kind of take some questions?
Okay, so I'd sort of just like to one of the things that really comes to my mind, and I always keep saying this, is that as a brand marketer, you cannot be everything to everybody. You have to be something to somebody, right?
Right.
That's pretty much how I'd like to really end the thing. So say who I am, what do I want to be, and then you can have multiple brands like Carlsberg Tuborg Cologne, like Ryan Hughes and Alan Solly, Peter England, right? Like in Maruti, you have a Ciaz, you have a Desire, and you have a Maruti 800. So each brand stands for something else. So I have different brands, but be something for somebody. Do not try and be everything for everybody. That will never work.
Okay, those are good, kind of final words. Okay, let's take some questions. I mean, we'd like to see the chat box if there is anything that is there that you'd like. Somebody's got a question here saying that why did Tata Nano fail? Sorry, you got a view on that?
I mean, I'm not an expert, but I think so. The way I see it is that Tata Nano said, okay, initially they came in and said, we're the whole positioning was that we're going to price ourselves at 100,000 rupees, right?
Yeah.
And that was the original start point, which from what I recall, Ratan Tata making a statement. Then we're going to bring a car so cheap, and it's at 100,000 rupees, and so you're really upgrading from two-wheeler to a four-wheeler. So let's say if a motorcycle 65,000 rupees, you have a tight four-wheeler. That was the original start point here. And I think when and that is what thinking was, and they made a nice, lovely looking design car, looking really cute, fantastic looking product. But when they actually launched it, it was upwards of 2 lakhs of rupees, right? And then the consumer looked at it and said, okay, I got motorcycles at, 65,000 price point, and then I can get cars, I can get a Renault, at around 3 lakhs. Then, why should I take this chotu little car for 2.65 lakhs? So I think that's pretty much where so you were pretty much in no man's land, neither getting the scooter audience nor attracting the car audience, because you were neither here nor there. Yeah.
Okay, there is one more question that I might like you to get an input on. They say, to create passion, one way is that, you pay big incentives to your people and they'll get passionate. Or better still, make them a stakeholder in what you're doing. You think, by giving a stakeholder and paying him more money, your employee will become more passionate, or something more beyond that needs to be done?
I think you have to make him a stakeholder in your mind, right? In his mind, right? In his or her mind, right? That is the most critical thing, right? You have to buy. This is where the battle happens, right? In the mind of the consumer, in the minds of your team, right? If you can get your team to become stakeholders and believe and make them believe that they're part of the brand and they own the brand, then you have a good chance of success.
Okay.
So I think very rightly said. The
Make-
battle is here in the mind.
Right.
That's a very, very worthy input. I think there is a lot that we have to learn with inputs from you.
No, I think
wonderful
yeah.
insights.
Yeah, so I think, to
Thank you.
kind of, put it in a few words that somebody, I think Steve Jobs said this. He says, you've got to start with the customer in mind and, what is the experience you want to build for him. And then you got to work backwards, towards the product. And if you do that, then that is perhaps the right way to kind of go about doing it. Okay. Another quote that it's a little naughty one, but let me try and read it out to you. They say that marketing is like sex. Everyone thinks they're good at it. So I'm not too sure. It's true. Okay.
Wonderful, sir.
No, so I think that's been thank you, Pradeep. Thank you for a very nice session. I would like to just give you some concluding remarks on what you heard. See, Pradeep is a thorough professional, and he shared with you exactly how to build a brand. Now, obviously, he can't make you a champion by listening to him for 1 hour, right? There is that much and no more that you'll get in listening to him in 1 hour. But I can see that there are many, some people in the audience, they ask, what is it for a startup session they want to do, and what are the kind of this thing. I would suggest that if you want to know more, then you've got to kind of reach out to Pradeep, because Pradeep is also a consultant, and we'd be happy to put you in touch with Pradeep, and you can take a one-on-one kind of counseling from him on that.